She clearly is so fucked up. They're actually legit scared of him. I was petrified, and I swear to God, I could not sleep for a week. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Chloe. I make videos about books. If you like what I do on my channel, then make sure to click the subscribe button and click the notification button so that you get notifications every time I upload a video. Today we're going to be talking about the books that I read in January. I did not do a December wrap up because I was kind of occupied, and then I thought maybe I would include it in this, but I just realised that like I'm not going to have any coherent thoughts about these books because it's been a while since I've read them. So we're just going to focus on the ones that I read in January. Basically, I think I only read like 6 books, which I say only because that's in comparison to what I usually read, which like I've at times been able to read about 30 books in a month. That's definitely on the higher end for me, and it's like a rarity, but like I usually fall in between 10 and 20 books, but I know some people read less than that and that's fine, and some people read a lot more than that and that's also fine. Let's just get straight into this so that I'm not dilly-dallying. The first book that I read this month was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a thriller, and this is basically about this couple who, how do I put this, they murder people for fun. That's kind of what the story is about, and that concept really intrigued me and really got me wanting to read it. And I'm not gonna lie, I think it was just the way that this story was approached and the kind of like things that it focused on just did not really interest me while I was reading it. I think it was a good book. I think it was well written. I think that there was an interesting power play between this couple, like in this couple, between the man and the woman. One that you normally would not think of or hear about when it comes to couple serial killers. Obviously that is a real life thing, like that happens, and it's really weird. And I was hoping that the book would kind of go into like how they got to that point, and it kind of does. But like also it's not really that psychological in my opinion. It didn't go as deep, it wasn't as dark as I was hoping it was. It was kind of mundane. You think it would be like really interesting, but it just was a little bit mundane. I don't know how to feel about it. I kind of like just put it to the back of my brain. I was like, I'm not going to think about it too much because it just, yeah, it wasn't giving what I wanted it to give. That made me sad. Originally, straight after finishing it, I gave it 3.5 stars. And then as time went on, I just realised that I really wasn't that bothered about it. So now it is at a 3 stars, which is still a good rating. I'm very bad at giving anything lower than 3 stars. Right, I've actually got these books physically, so I'm gonna go grab them. Basically, I had this little thing where I was like, if I don't get the Percy Jackson box set for Christmas, I'm just gonna buy it for myself. So that's what I did. And let me try and get the books out. In the month of January, I managed to read 2 of them. I mean, I would have gone on, I would have finished the whole series, but I stopped myself. I was like, no, you need to just hold on for a little bit and then you could continue in February. So I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, and like finishing it this month and hopefully moving on to the Heroes of Olympus. I've seen there's a really gorgeous, I think it's 10th anniversary box set that I really want to get my hands on. So I read the first book, which is, this is not the first book, I read the first book, which is The Lightning Thief. And this is obviously just the introduction. I think for me personally, the most important thing was getting to know Percy and Annabeth. And then there's also his friend Grover, who is also a big part of the first book. It's so cute. I have no words. It's just really sweet, and it lives up to the hype. So yes, I read the first one, I read the second one, which is The Sea of Monsters. So here's my verdict when comparing the first 2. I prefer number 1, firstly because it's thicker, there's more going on. I also think that they both have very similar setups, which I think is quite common for particularly middle grade series. It's kind of like each year he's facing some trials and tribulations that he needs to get through, and then at the end it's like, whoa, everything's fine. And then the next book it's like, nah. They do have very similar like structures. However, because it's based on Greek mythology, there is an abundance of different things for him to run into. Like there's so many, I mean there's the gods, obviously, Greek, Roman, Norse, all those mythologies are kind of my favourite because a lot of the time the gods are assholes. Greek people weren't walking around being like, oh my god, Seuss, he's just like the greatest guy ever, like, oh my god, he's gonna save us, like, he's amazing. They're actually legit scared of him. That's one of the things that I love about Greek mythology. It's also great for these stories because it means that, like, Percy runs into some gods and they're just up to their no goodness. They're like being very horrible people and like, or like not people, but you know what I mean. They're like doing not nice things. They're like trying to get in Percy's way. They're like trying to hurt him. They're like trying to harm this 11-year-old. I want to make a vlog of reading the last 3 books because I love it so much. So please let me know if you want to see that. The first one I gave 4 stars because I'm anticipating it getting a lot better. The second one I gave 3 stars just because, as I said, it wasn't quite my favourite. I liked some of the people that popped up in it, but it just was a little bit short for my liking. The next books that I read and finished, I'd been working on since December because, like, I don't know, I have this thing with, I love Stephen King's books, okay, so this is a Stephen King book. This one was a reread, and I absolutely do love his books, and like, I'm able to say that I really enjoy them, but I also take so long to read them, and I don't know what it is. It took me over a month, but I finished it, and I was, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was happy to have finished it, and it did reconfirm the fact that I gave it 4 stars. Like, I gave it 4 stars the first time round, I gave it 4 stars this time round, and that book is The Shining. This is obviously a classic. This is one that a lot of people have heard of. There's not really much to say. I think as soon as I stop reading it, my brain kind of like wipes itself clean. It's like, now we don't need to think about this anymore, because it is kind of a struggle to get through, I'm not gonna lie. That could just be the way my brain works, I don't know. But it's still worth reading. If you want to read The Shining and you haven't read it, definitely try it. Like, I'm not saying don't try it. The 5th book that I read in January, which was one of my most anticipated releases of 2021, was My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is my first Stephen Graham Jones book. Even though there's a couple that I've wanted to read, I think this is the one that really intrigued me the most. And basically, if you know me, I've said this so many times, I love slashers, okay? There's something about slasher movies that like really appeal to me, and I just really love watching them. Any books that like refer to slashers or build on the slasher, like on the lore of slasher and stuff like that, I love them. So of course I wanted to read My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is basically about this girl called Jade. She is obsessed with slashers, is basically the crux of the plot. She is super obsessed, and it's kind of like a coping mechanism for her because like there's clearly something that's happened, you know, in her past. Like, she's clearly, something has happened to her. She is not mentally stable, and she kind of uses slashers as this coping mechanism to be able to get through her life. Her mum died, ran away, I can't remember. Something happened to her mum. Her mum's not there anymore. Her dad is just a low-life piece of scum. It's just really difficult for her, so she uses slashers to cope with all of that, and like she watches a lot of slashers. Like the amount of slashers that get named in this book, and like especially ones that are just really obscure that like I've never like heard anything about. Obviously there's the references to like the classic ones like Scream, which is my favourite, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. She knows her shit, like she really, and I think that Stephen Graham Jones obviously has also grown up on slashers and is kind of like a massive fan of them because he really like puts loads of detail into it. I was really looking forward to reading this, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't have much to say about it, as per usual. I don't usually have much to say about any books. There were some things that happened in it that were quite shocking, I'm not gonna lie. There were some like plot reveals and stuff like that like, honestly, there was one point where I nearly did cry because I just felt so bad for this character. Like, she clearly is so fucked up. I wouldn't say it was like mind-blowing or like mind-boggling or anything like that. I was just like, I felt so much for this character. Like, but at the same time, she's an infuriating character. There was one time where she was like sitting in a car with someone having a full-on conversation, and then she opens the car and just like rolls out like James Bond style. And I was like, what? Like, you were having a conversation, nothing was wrong. And it's like in her brain, she just like talks herself into these really weird things, and like she imagines, basically, I didn't even tell you, people start dying and she starts like persuading herself, like she's persuaded herself that this is a real life slasher, and she's like simultaneously like worried about it because she's like, she doesn't want people to die, but also super excited because she's like, oh my god, I'm in my own real life slasher. Yeah. Also, one thing that I really loved about this book is there wasn't like a romantic interest really. I felt some vibes between her and some characters, but like there wasn't any romantic plot, which is really nice because I feel like for some reason romance needs to be thrown into everything, and it's like, surely if like people are dying, romance isn't the thing that you're thinking about. Yeah, it was kind of refreshing. I gave it 4 stars because I was quite confused throughout the whole thing. I don't know if it was the writing style, I don't know if it was me. I was just kind of confused, but I still really enjoyed it. Like, looking back on it, I'm just like super happy that I've read it and that I got the chance to read it. I've been talking about that book for a long time, so let's move on to the 6th and final book. I'm really gonna like touch upon this just a tiny little bit, and that is because this was like a collection of very short stories that are like geared towards children. I watched the movie that's kind of been made from this like series. I don't know if it's a series, but like there's like a collection of books that are a collection of short stories, and that's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by some guy, Alvin Schwartz. There was a horror movie made a couple of years ago called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. There was some really creepy imagery going on, like some really creepy CGI stuff that like I have to bleach my brain to get rid of. But anyway, that movie was okay. It wasn't the best horror movie I've ever watched, but it was pretty creepy. So I just thought, you know, I will try and read the books. Honestly, it's not really much. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. It's literally like for children, but it was like really short stories. Some of them are like more urban legend style, some of them are slightly newer, some of them I'd already heard, and some of them were just, you know, like run-of-the-mill, just made up like ghost stories or whatever, and they were alright. I didn't give this a rating because I didn't feel like it deserved a rating. I don't feel like I should be giving it a rating just because there was not much to rate it based on. But like, I guess if I was a kid, like listen, when I was like 10, I think I was like 10, I was petrified of urban legends. Like, I remember distinctly this one time where we were in, like, so basically my primary school had this tiny little library which was also the music room. The music teacher all of a sudden starts saying this is built on a burial ground and that like sometimes you can see ghosts, and I got freaked out because everyone started telling these urban legends, and for some reason they really scared me. So I went outside and I was like, I just can't be in that room anymore. And I was telling my friends, I was like, I can't be in this room anymore because people started telling urban legends, and then they started doing exactly the same thing, and I swear to God, I could not sleep for a week. I just could not sleep. You would not imagine that I then go on to really love this kind of stuff. It's quite funny. I used to hate that kind of shit, but now I really like it. Now I like to be scared. I mean, not properly scared, just kind of like semi-scared. They were all the books I read in January. That took me longer to film than I thought it would because I am a chatterbox when it comes to books. Even though I don't say anything that's actually worth saying. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then as I said before, make sure to click the subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.